So thank you very much for joining the localization and skills session. We have Mike who's going to give us some technical input just to get the juices flowing. This is very much your session, so we do have some questions, but it really is for everyone to engage in order for us to form a collective view on how we need to progress the localization and skills aspect of the just transition. I'm Joanne Bate. I'm the Chief Operations Officer of the IDC and a Commissioner of the PCC. And thanks very much for joining us today. When you do ask questions, we will have a roving mic. Please just introduce yourself and make sure that you speak into the microphone. So thank you very much. Mike, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the lastminute.com presenter on this, so unfortunately I don't have slides, but I'll talk to the subject. Maybe to say up front, my day job is a solar PV development and investment director. So that's what I do to earn a salary. But I'm also do a lot of work on the industry side. I was one of the architects of what eventually became the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan. And my company was one of the founding members of SAPIA. And there was a realization in my mind got to about 2016, 2017, when we were sitting with particularly government and Labour, that the renewable energy industry needed to have a better value proposition than we were cheap. And in addition, I sit on the green hydrogen panel, which was tasked by Minister Patel 2 years ago, to put together the green hydrogen commercialisation plan for South Africa. And I would say I was responsible, but certainly I played a big role in the renewable stream of that plan. So it's been a topic that for my industry in particular has been quite a long standing debate with government and stakeholders around
There's some seats in the front and along the side here.
So what I'll do, I think I've been told to talk for 10 minutes to kind of try and stimulate the debate. As I say, understanding from where I come from. So to be upfront, if people want to disagree with what I say, but I'm talking from my experience of being in this renewable energy industry for 12 years, and at the very hard end of it for particularly the last 7 or 8 years. What we've tended to find, and I think this is in a lot of what I would say new sectors coming to South Africa, that we tend to have what I call a totemic view around localization. So when we think of a solar PV plant or a wind farm, we tend to find government gets very, very focused on how do we make the panels locally, how do we make the turbines locally, okay? And we have to understand, I think, as it was pointed out this morning around producing panels in South Africa, that the Chinese government have had for the 25-year plan essentially around localizing their whole value chain. In addition, they receive a huge amount of support, from both provincial and national governments. And in fairness, in their country, the production industry is actually one of their social upliftment programs. So often these new plants that get built they get built in some of the remote places and rural places to create jobs. So from a Chinese government side, it actually is they see it as a social upliftment. However, we're about to undergo in South Africa, and maybe whether we like it or not, a massive renewable energy build over the next 10, 20, 30 years. And one thing I would say, this is purely and I'm sure this counts for every renewable energy developer, none of us would ever consider wanting to import any of what we call the balance of plant parts of a solar PV plant or wind farm. South Africa produces electrical goods of high quality at incredibly competitive prices. Okay, those products now make up probably slightly over 50% of the total capex of a wind plant or a solar PV plant. And for me, I often worry, and I tend to butt heads with DTI, particularly Herald on this point. For me, the biggest crime would be that in 2027, 2028, I'm forced to import these type of products from South Africa, from abroad, because South African manufacturers were not aware of exactly what the demand was going to be. Right now, I'm actually working with the manufacturing circle, and oddly enough with the SKA, because they've got some very good system planners, on actually starting to chart out exactly what we think the needs are from those manufacturers over the next 10 years, and being clear that they understand what that demand is going to be and what support do they need, whether it's from capex or from jobs, to expand that. And I think that's, and I started with, maybe let's look at from a long, I would say from a long viewpoint, and then I'll bring it into, let's say, what we should be looking at in the short term. As part of doing the green hydrogen commercialization plan, I kind of looked at kind of 2050 targets for South Africa in respect of renewable energy, okay, both for energy security, okay, and also for green hydrogen ambitions. And when you look at those two numbers, it talks about close to 280, 290 gigawatts of wind and solar would need to be accommodated on the South African grid by 2050 to meet both of those requirements. In the short term, if you do an analysis of Eskom's latest transmission development plan, it is actually, it's projects, and admittedly, these are not fully funded projects, okay? It's considering building 8,500 kilometers of new high voltage transmission line with the associated pylons, 32 new main transmission substations, and 166 step-up transformers. Now, I think it's not uncontroversial to say for at least the next 10 years in South Africa, and this is not talking to what we may need to do on battery storage or what we may need to do in terms of gas and other technologies, but it is not uncontroversial to say that we probably need to connect 6 gigawatts, 6,000 megawatts of renewables to the grid every year for the next 10 years. However, if you sit and actually break that down and take a bottom-up approach instead of the debates that we tend to have, like today, which tends to be very top-down and gets stuck in policy and ideology, each of those projects is going to need a step-up transformer. You work on an average of about 200 megawatts. That's 30 transformers a year for the next 10 years. We don't have that capacity in South Africa to meet that, just that side of it. Each one of those transformers will use 13 to 14,000 kilograms of copper in the copper windings. In a 100 megawatt solar PV plant, we will use 750 kilometers, okay, of medium, low voltage and fiber cables. Again, products we all get from South Africa. Okay. And we'll put probably 8 to 10 kilometers of security fencing around each of those plants. The one project we're developing has a 22 kilometer, okay, perimeter. Again, all locally produced. Eskom wants to install 513 megawatts of battery per year to 2028, which it then wants to increase to 2,000 megawatts. Those will all need transformers. Okay. What I'm trying to get to is there is a massive amount of jobs that are here to be created, okay, in the sector that South Africa already has a reputation okay, and a good reputation for producing. And one of the reasons I say we're doing the work with Manufacturing Circle is because their members, who are many of the members who are going to do this, essentially, they don't know. They don't know what they need to produce over the next 5 to 10 years. Okay. The issue may be, and I think that's a spatial issue, I think, which has been discussed elsewhere, is around where that expansion should be located. Because at the moment, I would say, even though we have things like renewable energy development zones, which essentially have been defined as areas within South Africa where we would like to see large-scale deployment of renewable energy. We have one around in Mcheleni, and we also have one around Klerksdorp. Okay, we really haven't developed our thinking around using those zones where we want to see large-scale renewable energy built into having an industrialization plan. In fairness, most of the municipalities that are actually in REDs, and we have 12 REDs in South Africa, aren't even aware that there are REDs. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on that side. For the skeptics on green hydrogen, because I noticed that I sort of skimmed through Steve's report last night, or the executives, and the feedback from stakeholders. The numbers that I've talked about above don't include any requirements for green hydrogen. And probably as important, because I'll be honest with you, I was I was very involved in green hydrogen. I have been very involved in green hydrogen for the last 3 years. And when it did appear in the JET IP, I was a bit surprised. Okay, and I was thinking, what's the value proposition, okay, for it? But one thing that we need to remember, and we often forget about this sector, for someone like Sasol, every two atoms of hydrogen needs an atom of compliant carbon. Okay, and as we shift away from being able to use extractive fossil fuels, you're starting to look at the biomass industry. And the way I look at it is almost like an industrial forestry industry to meet those needs until such time that direct air capture. But maybe some cautionaries, I think, probably to put out there in terms of when we discuss, and I'm going to talk because I'm more knowledgeable about solar than I am about wind, so I'll stay away from my brethren on that one. I had discussions about dinner and discussions about 3 weeks ago with the world's largest solar PV manufacturer, and I said to him, what would it take for you to come and open a plant in South Africa? And he said to me, listen, Mike, if I look at the kind of global, you have to understand what we look at from the global context. He says, in 2021, globally, there was 257 gigawatts of wind and solar deployed. 80% of that was a combination of wind and solar. The IEA are forecasting that between 2022 and 2027, there's going to be 4,200 gigawatts, okay, of new renewable energy capacity built globally. So he says when his company looks at where they're going to put, and they're about to start construction on a gigawatt factory in the US. They say we look for any market where we can see an annual demand of 10 gigawatts of solar PV. If I see that, we will open. Okay, so part of that comes to long-term planning, certainty around which way is our transition going. As most of us know, there seems to be a kind of a debate whether we can do a just transition with renewables or whether we can do it with clean coal, gas, and nuclear. And in fairness to the international world, it just confuses that story. I think the other bit, and I think we saw it in great detail in the last 2 years, and I was laughing when I started writing the section on renewables and the green hydrogen plan. It was when Eskom announced, I think in July 2021, that there was no connection capacity in the grid. Okay. At the moment, we don't have a grid plan for 2050 that would enable us to be able to reach net zero even if we wanted to. Okay? And to understand, and I've been pushing, and I was told I was cheeky when I asked this question once in NEDLAC, when Eskom Transmission gave a presentation on its Just Energy Transition Plan, and it talked about the fact that it was going to build this 8,500 kilometres of new grid. And I said, building 8,500 kilometres of grid is surely that's normal course of business for a transmission company. So I said, tell me what's just transition about it. And I was told I was being cheeky. And I said, no, I think it was a serious point. Transmission, the purpose of transmission is to deliver, large blocks of electricity from one part of the country to another. Okay. The just transition is about how do I migrate the benefits, okay, of this clean energy and the decisions around we make about this clean energy from the center to the margins. Okay, so that tells me you need to have a distribution plan, okay, because it's more about how am I going to connect households, townships, okay, to the grid. Okay, how am I going to integrate ICT with distribution so that as a distributor I can have a two-way conversation with my customer. So my customer can communicate with me and I can communicate with my customer. So I think I wasn't being cheeky. I think I was asking a relevant question. But you will see we have no plan for that. And currently the way Eskom does its transmission development planning, and there's nothing wrong with it, it's a 10-year plan, which essentially involves them talking to business and various stakeholder groups to say, what do you think of investing in the next 5 years? Okay, and of course in South Africa right now, hard commitments are not as strong, but that's what they work on. So I've been pushing very hard that we need this, what I call the 2015 net zero grid transition plan, okay, which gives us a North Star that we should be saying, right, this is the grid we need to enable net zero. If net zero is what we want, all right, because I think that's still a decision, I think that's for debate, okay, in amongst stakeholders. But we need to have that North Star that when we keep doing this 10-year transmission development plan, we're sure we're not going down a cul-de-sac for the decisions we're making. So, but again, and I always regret, Joanne, that we never had this conversation when we finished the green hydrogen plan, was a discussion around and we probably still need to have it, between government and business and the private sector, is what roles should each play in this development of a green hydrogen sector as a new high frontier sector. And it happened around the time, I think I had a PPGI dinner with Minister Gungumbele, and they had people from the ports, rail, forestry, a number of sectors. What kept coming up over and over again is the lack of investment in our network sectors. Okay, we have problems at ports, rails, roads, transmission, distribution, ICT. Each one of them are suffering with. Now, for me, if you really want to create long-term sustainable jobs, okay, we need to have a government, and particularly in a case where we're in very low growth economy. Counter-cyclical investment in infrastructure is critical, okay, and it enables business to do what it should be doing, okay, and there needs to be a compact. And in fairness, I would say we're going to create many more jobs, sustainable and long-term jobs that way, than we will worrying about the fact that I've got 800 people working for 6 months on my PV site digging trenches. Okay, not to say we don't do those jobs, okay, but I'm saying we're missing a huge opportunity for jobs. And I might be slipping around between localization and. The one thing I will say, and I was in Germany last year talking to a couple of transition think tanks. For the world to reach net zero, we have to build way more renewable energy than the world is currently building now, multiples. Okay, and the general view taken is that the localization of those key components, again, which now make up less than 50%, okay, of the cost of a PV plant, okay, localization will happen naturally just through the sheer size of what you need to do. You know, the Chinese government's reaction after post-COVID was to increase their capacity in their country of production from about 135 gigawatts to 500 gigawatts in 18 months of internal capacity. But even the OEMs are starting to say there's a concentration risk. Okay, and one of the things when I was essentially doing the Booker-buy concept, was this idea of a nice hub on the west coast of South Africa, where you could guarantee, you know, deployment into maybe 40 gigawatts of renewables for green hydrogen, but also have access to European and US markets. Might be something that's an interesting attractor, because we're going to need to do something very substantial if we're saying to ourselves, it is going to be a plan of ours that we need local panel manufacturing. And I think it comes back to the other side when, you know, I'm deputy chair of the Bursa Energy Subcommittee. So we, of course, you know, for Bursa members, the issue of localization is a key issue. And one of the key things you know, I said, you have to say, if you want as business to commit to this, you need to know that if I want to go out and get local panels, they're there. If I want to get local panels that are bankable, I need to know they're there. If you're telling me I'm going to do this, but I can't get the panels, which is the problem we're having already in the REAP program, okay, it doesn't make any sense, okay? And in reality, we're going to be building solar PV in 2050, 2060. We need to have a plan that says by 2030, how are we going to get to these targets? It's not something, what tends to happen in South Africa, we do it kind of procurement round by procurement round. That's how it tends to happen as a debate between the industry and government. And we need to have a far more, I think, coherent debate, not just with government, I think, but with Labour and with all the other social partners. I asked Steve last night, you know, what should I look at to kind of just give me some pointers to what I talk about today? And he said, no, read the exec summary of the technical report. And also just try and look at some of the comments that we got from the stakeholders. So I did that at 9:30 last night. What I would probably say, and these are personal views of mine, is that when I looked at the exec summary, rather when I looked at the views of stakeholders, what I tended to find was quite negative in terms of, so there seemed to be a lot of views given about what the just transition must do for them, or what the just transition mustn't threaten for them. Less about, to some extent, what could they contribute to the just transition? What is it that they can do, let's say, to get the transition that they want? And so I've been part of the Just Transition Subcommittee, or Just Energy Transition Subcommittee at Bursa. And one of the things that is often difficult, and I think some of the members said, South Africa needs to set itself a vision of what is the South Africa we want to live in 2050. Okay? Because ultimately once you can set some of those North Stars, it begins to say, you know, that for each of us, and every social partner has a role to play in getting us there. And I might be slaying off the point a bit here, but ultimately the just transition is that path. Okay? I think in many cases we talk about just transition. I think it was said this morning, we talk about social justice, we talk about leaving no one behind. They're often very difficult concepts, and I think in many cases different social partners have different views of what that is. Okay? And I think it's important that we kind of realize that, firstly, electricity in itself is of no use. Okay? Electrons going down, you know, being produced or going down a line is of only any use when it's putting this light on. Okay? It's being coming down, it's being charged at a price that allows either a business to create economic value or for households to get a social dividend and social upliftment. Okay? And we have a problem in South Africa where what I call front-end load the energy crisis. We talk about how we're going to protect the coal industry, gas. We talk about generation technologies. but we never talk about what is the implications of the cost of the electricity that's going to be delivered to a water treatment plant, okay, or to a farmer, okay. We kind of, once it's in the system, we almost forget about those implications. And I think for a just transition, that either you have to have more projects locally, okay, where you are essentially much more engaged in your project. But the current system, for me, doesn't work, and it doesn't assist the just transition. It just entrenches it. I think, in fairness, even if we were the model net zero economy, okay, if we decarbonised within the next 10 years, our country is going to be, I think, disproportionately affected by climate change in 2050. Okay, and for me at least, the issue is about adaptation, and very clear, again, another subject that I kind of find sometimes unclear, resilience. Okay, and what is resilience? Okay, and I'm going to talk a little bit about as from a person who had parents who had to leave school at 13, thrown out of their house, thrown out of their country. But I was lucky enough to be born in the United Kingdom in 1957. They had a national health service, a state education system, a government that gave us a house, okay, that had water and electricity. And I had the fundamental planks to have a good life. But as my mother would tell me, you'll get a good education, and you and I and God will teach you the difference between right and wrong. Everything else after that is up to you. Okay. And resilience is about being able to fail, or firstly, be empowered to make a choice. To take a person, say, take someone, put them from a coal dependent job into a renewable dependent job is not resilience. Okay. Resilience is about empowering workers to make choices about what they want to do in their life. And as important, if you fail, okay, that you have the support and the reskilling opportunities to get up again. We've seen, as this economy, global economy evolves, especially on energy, there are new technologies coming out all the time in a disruptive way that are killing jobs. Okay, and quickly, just to go back to what the PV company said, but you do understand, even if you do have a 10 gigawatt market, okay, the production site we put down is fully automated. Okay, so the other issue is, what are the skills we should be learning for? Because actually, all that gigawatt factory actually needs IT specialists. It won't need people putting solar panels together. Okay, so it's about understanding. It's about understanding that path. What do we need to be successful in that path? Okay, what do we need? Okay, to actually get, so we get away from what I call PowerPoint solutions to ones that will actually work on the ground. And I'm going to try and be careful not to go on too far on this, because as Joanne will know, that if I've given the chance, I will talk forever. But one of the things that came to me was, and I know that business did say this, I didn't see anything within it that said, what's this hopeful vision for South Africa? I think all of us in the room, there's quite a few of us like myself that probably won't be alive in 2050, but my children and grandchildren here, and your grandchildren and grandchildren, where's the South Africa you want them, okay, to grow up in? And I think it got raised particularly by the FACE groups, and it was great to hear youth, because often you don't hear it. I remember when we were coming out of the first phase of COVID, and I was part of B4SA, and they wanted to suddenly talk about the economic recovery and reconstruction plan. And we were sitting there, and the week before I'd done some work where it said the median age of South Africa was 27.6. And I was sitting in the room around me, and I think the only people probably under the age of 55 were the people who were serving coffee. And there we were as business, labour, government, and civil society trying to chart an economic recovery plan without actually knowing what the hopes and fears of that 27.6-year-old South African is. I think we heard some of it this morning. Okay, and he's not in the room. So I think I might have gone off the point a little bit on this one, but I have to admit that it's kind of one of those things where I think in terms of this sector, it will create lots of jobs, but it will create lots of jobs in areas that you don't think about. Okay, it's going to be a transition not only of who makes money out of coal, who makes money out of generation. The future energy market will see the benefits go much more evenly across the whole ecosystem of transmission, development of distribution, the services involved in it. Okay, masses of services involved in it. The other bit that we don't ever look at properly, and I think as a country that is also water stressed, okay, we don't look at the job opportunities that will come across what I call the food, water, energy nexus. Okay, if you go and look at agrivoltaics, where you can produce the same amount of crop with 1/10 of the water. Okay, those are the sort of areas where you can have community and smaller social enterprises. Okay, not in Johannesburg, no, not in the big metros, but particularly say in the mining areas. Okay, and I think we haven't investigated those nexuses for opportunities for jobs. I think I should stop there because normally someone comes and gives me the 2-minute handle because I'll keep talking. I hope it's given you some food for thought. I'm not sure who's going to ask questions, and I'll try and answer any of them that you may have. Okay.
Thanks. And I think there was some very, very strong nuggets coming out there, specifically around not only localization, but jobs and skills. And I remember in 2014, 2015, there were studies released that said that 80% of the jobs that would be done by my children had not yet been conceived. And I think that's really what Mike's talking to. We mustn't see solving for 100,000 coal jobs as the objective of what we're trying to achieve. I think that's a red herring. The real opportunity is solving for the millions of unemployed people today and the millions of people that are going to be seeking jobs in the future. And that really is, I think, how we need to be thinking about localization and the creation of the job market of the future. I've said for a long time that decarbonization is a bit of it's the burning platform that's creating the case for change. But we actually have the most phenomenal opportunity for reindustrializing the South African economy. And that's something that we've got the next 5 years to accelerate on. Decarbonization, we've got to 2050. Transforming the economy, we need to really do about by 2030 if we're not going to be impacted by carbon border taxes and serious negative impacts on our export product. So I really do think we've got, when we think about localization, jobs and skills, how do we think about transforming our current manufacturing industry to be green and resilient? How do we transform agriculture to ensure that there's greater resilience within the agricultural sector, not just relying on traditional means of farming, but really looking to how we can upskill and introduce innovations into that space. And as Mike said, the network industries needing to be invested in. And in those investments, we create enormous opportunities for significantly growing our localization opportunities. So localization to me is very much about retaining existing jobs, capacities, and transforming them, and also building the capacity that's going to support what is, to me, bigger than the gold boom. It really is the green boom, is the opportunity for us to significantly grow the economy. So I'm just going to see if there's any initial comments. I do have some questions to stimulate debate, but I'm sure that I have no need to stimulate debate. I'm sure there's lots of ideas and thoughts around the room. The first hand I saw in the front here. Do we have the microphone, please? And please just state your name, where you're from, and then I'll hand over to you.
Hello, I'm Jezri. I'm from the Institute for Economic Justice. So I think my first question was just about whether if we need to generate stable demand for specific technologies in order to localize them, is the current auction system the right procurement method? And is IPPs and this reliance on an erratic private sector investment the right way to plan stable demand for various renewable components or technologies to simulate the industry. My other question was, if this is a very important area for job creation, there seems to be very, very little focus in the JET IP on localizing renewable manufacturing, and very little investment going into it. I think there's like less than a page discussing it in the JET IP. So why do we not see more focus when, if it is a key area?
Okay. Thank you. There's a hand behind there. If you could just pass the mic back. Oh, sorry, you, and then you did have your hand up first, yes. So then we'll move here, over there. There's
And sorry for taking them up before you then. Sir, we are here, young people. Eh? Don't focus on Otile, the one who was speaking there.
Oh, okay.
We are
Okay.
It's just the broad of us. Eh?
Okay.
We are here. Sorry, thanks.
Got it.
Just to add on the point, my good sir was talking about here, that we are procuring most of the services for the just energy transition. The previous speaker was talking about that the localization is going to happen just automatically. So we are having an issue whereby on the framework there's nothing that's talking about localization and skills development on the just energy transition framework of South Africa, even on the just energy transition South Africa of the investment plan too. So are you guys have already skilled, or do you have a plan to skill most of the industries, like the mining industry and all its value chains of the people and the workers that are going to be affected by this transitioning? And if so, yes, is the plan already currently underway, or is still going to find a plan or come back to us, civil society and communities, to find out how we can actually assist you guys to make your job easier for sure? And then the last one, if we are going to be procuring all these skills and plans outside the country, what about the trade policies and the trade policies of international countries rendering these skills to us, the country? I can also name historical debts that we have from what's this country of Fidel Castro? Because Cuba, because we are always having Cuban doctors, and we don't see any value of them. Every time South Africa is facing an issue, we are going to be told that they are procuring doctors from Cuba to come and assist here in the country, and yet there's nothing tangible on that development going forward. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. We'll pass back there, and then. So there have been so many hands going up. So we're going to just do 5. There's 2 more questions there, and then we'll move to you in the next one. Is that okay? Perfect.
I am Mbolayan Mboti from NUMSA. Look, mine is a combination of question and initial comments. You know, there is something that we need to look at. Much as we are transiting, there are also other countries that are doing the same. So there is a balance that we need to look at between globalization and localization. But we may not control globalization, but we probably might control localization by policy instruments. Do we even have those policy instruments? Because the issue of localization has to do with competitiveness. So you can't just produce, because, I was looking at some statistics, and they say this is who is producing, but how competitive are they in the market? You can produce, but not get an uptake from inside the country. So, I think those are the things that we need to look at. And the other one is, when you talk of jobs are it's an emotive and emotional subject, because, when you lose a job in South Africa, you are most unlikely to get nothing.
Absolutely.
So we cannot use rhetoric to talk about jobs. We need to have pathways that talks of the jobs that we are losing towards what we are creating. And the talk is really about decent jobs for everyone. When I say everyone, whilst we try to protect that which is right now existing, we need to have a way of creating new ones. But we also need to look at the quality of jobs that we're migrating to. As trade unions, for instance, we look at the ILO definition of decent jobs. Anything that deepens casualization, that deepens precarious jobs, for us, it's something that we would need to sit down and deal with, because we can't sacrifice decent jobs, not for people in the shop floor, but also for people who are hoping to get into the shop floor. So that is the very important part. The first part that needs an answer, it's whether we have got policy instruments to that effect. 2013, as I close, 2013, we went to Mexico. I keep on making this example. And in Mexico, there is a lot of wind farms there. But what we got to know about their situation is the technicians, and the technicians there are like, what, if you ask me, I don't know the right word, spanner boy. Somebody will pass the tools around because of the international, what do they call this now?
Contractors.
Yeah. Wherein they say, no, you touch the insides of this, the warranty falls off. Now, I'm saying what we need to be doing is to do a thorough job. Because if you were to go and address a general meeting today anyway, and just say, no, because of climate change, we are migrating. Yes, we understand. What will happen to my job?
100%.
And what will happen to where I'm moving to? What is the reality of where I'm moving to? Is where I'm moving to a sustainable job, or it is a job opportunity where I will go and wipe the panels, and then what? And we have got an example. When we put solar water heaters on top of the roofs, we had an issue with your glass tube conductors. Who was producing them? China was. That's why the example of China, for me, doesn't work very well. Then we went to Cuba. We asked the people in Cuba, my comrade just mentioned Cuba. There is a company called Cuba Solar. And we asked them, we said, what is your situation with regards to the solar panels? They said, we have got the same challenge as you. So I don't think we need to talk lightly about localization and jobs.
Agreed. There we go. If you could just pass it across. Yeah, the lady there.
Thank you so much, Reverend Rachel from Green Anglicans. But my question was around the training, because we have to be getting people ready for the job market. And when we saw the JET budget, it seemed like the budget for training was very tiny. Are you liaising with the Department of Higher Education so that there will be training set in place? Because at the moment it seems like most of the training is actually private and super expensive. So, I mean, by next year, it'd be great if young people could be going into those trainings already. Are the courses set up? Have they been registered with the department, etc.? Is there one of the commissioners who's dealing with the Department of Higher Education? And is there plenty of money going into training? Thank you.
Thanks. And there was one more. Was it you? Okay, I'll trust you that it was you next. Thanks.
Ke a leboha modulasetulo. Ha qala ka ho leboha sebaka le ho dumedisa ka kgotleng. And of course, these two things are inextricably linked. But there is, I think that we do need to kind of clarify what conversation are we having in this room, so that we can then really solve for that problem as we try to kind of engage the other one as well. So that's the first piece. And the second piece, I think, is really around this question of, Are we trying to deal with the jobs attached to the coal and fossil fuel economy vis-a-vis those attached to the renewable energy and new economy, right? And I think one of the ways that I've been trying to kind of make sense of this conversation has been through the transition out and transition in distinction, right? Because the transition out, I think, is the urgent work that we need to be doing. And then the transition in is longer term, the kinds of jobs that we haven't even imagined yet, and we perhaps don't even have the capacity to imagine at this point, still being stuck in Egypt, working towards Canaan. Or the land of milk and honey. So I guess the question I'm really asking is, where is our conversation in the first instance, and then how do we connect the transition out into the transition in a structured way as we have this conversation? The second question I really have here, and it's really about thinking very practically. I think it's important to dream, to think ambitiously, to define a kind of lodestar that we can follow. But I think we also do need to ground ourselves in a context, right? So currently South Africa is spending about 19.8% of GDP just simply servicing debt. This is not touching capital, right? This amounts to about 364 billion per annum, right? This is more than what we spend on education, more than what we spend on health, more than what we spend on social development, particularly the grants or social relief mechanisms that we have in place. Someone's got to pay for this stuff. We heard the minister saying, kind of indexing some of the big picture issues that are happening around the global financing ecosystem, right? Issues like the status broke, that the lending market is really unfavorable, particularly for developing countries. We are inside of a very real global debt crisis that no one wants to just simply kind of accept and state as such, that we are in a global recession, right? Our local development planning and implementation capacity is really weak, and I think we also do need to be facing that. It was being skirted around about by particularly our public office bearers this morning. And so the question for me then is, within this context, understanding also that we've got this big trade war coming up later this year, the carbon border adjustment mechanism that that Europe is setting up, which is going to effectively crush our export markets, the ones that we really depend on, with our biggest trade partners, again, Europe and North America. What is our game plan here? What are the kinds of skills for the present, for the future, that we need to kind of be prioritizing? Where are we locating the conversation, and then kind of leveraging, and also are we leveraging, the very local conversation to connect with the kind of global action or movement that is happening as well, as we think about skills, as we think about reordering the economy, as we think about planning for new kinds of jobs, while also trying to rescue those who are coming out of existing jobs that we are transitioning out of. Thank you.
So I'm going to maybe pick up on a couple of these, and this is very much a dialogue. So if there's any views in the room that would like to be expressed, please do feel free to respond to some of the questions. This is not for the Commission to express our views entirely, but I can fill in some of the gaps where I'm aware of, so where there is a specific answer to the question or context that can be provided. And Mike, also please feel free to step in. So completely agreed on the comment on needing the stable demand for tech. So being from the IDC, we have a number of assets that were not sustainable because of the stop-start approach of the REAP program. And I think that's what excites us about where we are from an economic rebuilding perspective. Because just mentioned this, Mike mentioned 5 to 6 gigawatts of power to be built. He went through the stats of what is necessary for us to have a stable electricity grid in the country with sufficient renewable energy to allow the company or the country to operate, and what that actually means for localization. And I think we do need a more committed government program. There are questions, and I think the questions come out in the JET IP around, is government responsible for generation, or is there more private sector build necessary for generation, allowing government to focus on the generation or the distribution and transmission? And the value of more private sector players coming into the market, and the burning platform for power to be provided, is that you get that sustained demand for the renewable energy particularly. So we are seeing far more consistent demand for renewable energy funding, which gives us the ability to understand the localization potential. What is critical is, off the back of the network industries, being energy, rail, distribution, logistics, all of the pieces that Mike mentioned, IT, is to put integrated planning together. An economy doesn't happen by accident. It happens by planning. So we need to understand that infrastructure demand, which is going to create the immediate opportunity, but the localization opportunities that can then filter into and feed into those that demand as rapidly as possible. What we're seeing in the renewable energy build, because this is a global transition that is happening, is the demand for, so I think just in the green hydrogen space, the demand for electrolyzers of the scale necessary to actually build these plants are not available. So we do have to think about localization off the back of this demand, not only because we can compete cost effectively in many aspects of it. We will be able to compete cost effectively when you take into account the carbon and the cost and the carbon of transport. So the more you localize manufacturing, the more you actually green supply chains. I think that's critical in the context of the battery mineral value chains as well, and certain conversations that we're having with global partners on how do we localize technology, so be it technology partners bringing their technology here, or even more importantly, how do we actually commercialize some of our amazing technologies that we currently have? And we're sitting in the CSIR, how do we actually move those technologies into commercialization and really use the innovation that we have in our country? On the lack of JET IP focus, so the JET IP was focused on the 3 pathways, not on localization. So localization is very much, so if you look at the green hydrogen commercialization strategy, there you'll see not the first 5 years of build, but actually the whole plan around skills, jobs, localization, which is a more holistic view. The JET IP was focused on 3 decarbonization pathways, not the economic potential that flows from that. So it needs to be read in the context of the broader country investment plan and national development plan. Where it comes to, and I completely agree with your comment, and localization doesn't happen automatically. And we need to have better systems planning to understand how we actually plan for the system that is the economy of South Africa. Electricity is something we are trying to solve for. Why are we trying to solve for it? So our economy can operate and our people can live. So we need to understand electricity is not the objective of what we're trying to achieve. It is the enabler for what we're trying to achieve. So to the comments at the back, what are we solving for? The just energy transition or the transition of the economy, we have to solve for the system. If we solve for any one part of the system without understanding its impact on the broader system, we're not going to achieve the outcomes and impact that we can achieve through the decarbonization of our energy system. So I do think we have to solve for the system. And if we think about localization really is about enabling the system. It's about, thinking about the leveraging off the opportunities the just energy transition presents to us. It's about identifying the new pathways for growth and new industries. It's about thinking about the skills, and on the skills, we have had significant engagement with DSI, with Department of Higher Education. There's active engagement that is happening. There needs to be more tangible plans put in place. So I can talk to what we've done on the green hydrogen commercialization side, where there's been a lot of integration on that, but that's one pathway. And we need to ensure that across the various pathways, there's a clear view as to what are the skills that are needed to be developed. How do we ensure and it's not just at a TVET, so the immediate need is at a TVET and university level. How do we ensure we have the right curriculum that's actually going to produce the jobs of the future? But it also is within our schooling system, how do we ensure we are educating children to be ready for the future that is ahead of us? So it really is an holistic piece of work that needs to take place. The pieces are happening in parallel. They need to be pulled together to ensure that they, as I said earlier, deliver an effective outcome. With that, and picking up on the point from NUMSA, it is to me about having standards where it comes to technology. Because we often, and particularly in the public sector procurement basis, we've got these wonderful procurement rules that ensure that there is no waste. But in the process, sometimes there is waste. So if we don't have proper standards around the quality of technology that is needed, you could end up with an inferior solution, which then results in solutions not necessarily being delivered. So I do think we need to think more in the technology and localization space around how do we establish the right level of standards. On the training, there is, as I said, we need more focused training curriculum. I've come across a number of different things that are happening, but there's a lot of disconnect. What I'm seeing amongst the mining houses is that there is better alignment. There are some mining houses in Limpopo that are looking at combined social and labor plans, so they can think about how they plan for society and the labor in a district, as opposed for each mine thinking about it in isolation. And I think that this talks to the need for more collective thinking and collaboration. No one company can solve it, and the government can't solve it alone. So it really is this collective that needs to put the regional spatial plans together so that we can actually achieve the outcomes we want to achieve. And CBAM could crush our markets, but I really think CBAM presents an opportunity for us to not have to worry about competing with being as cheap as China, but really to have green and competitive supply chains. We have a really efficient manufacturing sector, and the opportunity for us to transition that to green is a very real opportunity. And I think the transitioning out of coal is a longer term plan, because the transitioning into new technologies is the thing that's going to enable the economy to be competitive over the next 5 years. So we do need to consider that transitioning in and out, and have very specific timing and plans around it. But I do think that we need to be focusing, not distracted by the 25-year conversation, and really focus on the economic opportunity that we have to transition in to very new and interesting opportunities. So I'm not sure if there are any other comments that anyone wants to make in response to the comments raised, or if there's new comments that people would like to raise. So I've got, you were first, your hand wasn't up first here, but you've for the first round over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, microphone. Where is the microphone? Thanks. So we've got number 1 in the front here.
Sanibonani. Igama lami uThami Awamgomezu. I'm from Mpumalanga, Governing Bank, Sekunda. Thank you for the opportunity. In Mpumalanga, we are living in fear, madam, every day, and then not last year, from 1977. We're staying in risk each and every day. So in just transition, we understand, but our biggest fear, we're going to lose our job. Once we talk about just transition or climate change, the guy come from Sasol to work there. You don't want to talk to him, because to him, it's like we're taking their bread on the The biggest challenge is what I saw, me. There is a gap between governance and the time exchange. Now we are here, we are talking about localization, but I didn't see any mayor, I didn't see any councillor, I didn't see anyone from that department. At the end, once this thing is passed, we go on. Me, as a Sekunda resident, I'll go to governing big municipality, of which they don't know nothing about it. So that's why it keeps fear all the time. Last time they were at Sekunda, twice. We explained to those who are there. First, we chased them. Why we chased them? Because you can't come to my yard before my parent. Then we are disrespecting us. They come second. Then the mayor was there. What they do in the second meeting, they give us the wrong venue as localization. You see, now we are here as localization. But when they are in our place, where the biggest problem is, because in Pitor, I don't think they face what we are facing in Governing Peak. But when we come and raise those issues in front of everyone, the same local governance, they give us the wrong directions. We go in Sekunda for a meeting, the meeting was at Embalenze, next to my place. Then I have to organize transport to go to Sekunda and then come back to where I'm coming from. So in Sekunda we see fear here. Our labor minister spoken Ajamde. He mentioned one word, unity. So if there is no unity, we won't survive this. We are all in danger. Because what I see is everyone wants to be a champion. We can look at football. It's played by 11 people, but it can be watched by 250 people. It can make the world go round. But how many people were in the field? There was 11 people. How do they manage that game to be disciplined and everyone get enjoyed that moment? There is a captain. After the captain, there is a coach. After the coach, there is the match commissioner. If those 4 people didn't play their role, the game won.
And the rules are known.
The rules made by the people. If there's no captain in the field of play, there's no rules. Once you put the captain in the field of play, which means to tell us there's the rules. So if you see our local governance are not participating in this, then we see this unity. And we will plan it here on top, but we'll go to the ground, we will fail. My coach once said to me, if we fail at the training, must count ourselves as the losers at the weekend. Because we fail in the behind the scene. We can't do it right in front of the people. So what I would like to leave here today, go back again. Talk to those people that you need. Because you need local municipalities. But according to my knowledge and what I see, they are not interested in the climate change. You, as PCC, go back, say, my madam, and speak to them. Because one bull in one cry, 2 bull in one cry, they won't make any difference. That is the fight. So don't want it to be the middle, because as localization will become the middle. Because we are the one who are affected. Where I'm staying, the problem that I'm talking on about, I heard it from my father, 1977. I'm still carrying it now. And there's no solution even now. Because I see where we are going, we won't make it. We won't. We can put any, we can do any, but if the head don't go hand in hand with the foot, then we're gonna fall. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Tennyson Mucheka. I'm the CFO from the Northern Cape SME Trust. I've got some few issues. Some of them might be questions. The number one is that, okay, since there is a drive toward the renewable energy, what I want to find out is since the country or the world is also endowed with these vast resources like coal and other fossil sources of fuel, is there anything that is being done to redevelop these sources into maybe using technologies that are not detrimental to the environment or that result in these greenhouse gases? Is there any research that is being done towards that sector? And also seeing that there is over 120,000 jobs, for example, in the coal mining, and then plus in other fossil fuels. Now, when we talk of localization, are we only talking about the manufacturing of components, or we are also talking about localization of skills? Because oftentimes you find that probably it's expatriates or other high-profile engineers that are coming from abroad. What is it that is being happening in terms of localizing the skills to close that gap? And then also on the localization of manufacturing, the outcry normally from the communities is also that normally these things, they go to big business, but the SMEs, they are left behind. So what is being done to try and capacitate also the SMEs so that they can play a meaningful role? Because sometimes when government officials speak about this renewable energy, most of the time in the communities, they just say, this is just for the affluent people. It's not really for us. Because they don't see the benefits that are coming to them. For example, I studied also foundry technology, which is the manufacturing of these components. But as an SME, what are the support functions that are available that is SMEs they can also tap into? Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. But my question actually follows quite neatly on the previous. I'm Stan Pillay from Anglo-American, and I head up the renewables at the company. We're speaking a lot about how we look at communities and society, and that's absolutely important. But at the end of the day, someone has to provide the jobs, and I think we're probably missing the manufacturing, microfactoring manufacturing circuit. But our companies in the private sector actually attuned to what's this transition about, and are they positioning themselves, or are we getting that capability of entrepreneurship into the job creation, or not the job, the manufacturing element of our society going? And so I'm not sure if this plan addresses it, but potentially through collaboration such as the manufacturing circle and others, we need to make the private sector, the business sector, informed with what's underway. And it's possibly something we need to think about.
Thank you. My name is Sunny Morgan. I'm from an organization called Debt for Climate, and we promote the cancellation of the debt of the global south to enable a just transition, to enable the payment of a basic income grant. I'm with the comrade in the back that speaks about this plan taking on this debt. It's very opaque, this debt issue. We know that only less than 4% of that funds, 133 billion rand, is in soft loans and grants. The rest of it, we don't know. We don't know the details of 96% of the funding. Who are the beneficiaries? What are the terms and conditions? And is this plan going to rob the future generation of their income and of a livable planet? So we want to talk about that. So, but I think the most important speech that was made at this colloquium is actually made by Tami. This is the speech that everyone has to listen to. Of course, we want to listen to Otsile speak. Of course, we want to listen to Valley and Crispin speak. But here was the most important speech, because this is actually what the challenge is about. So there's issues about training and skills. It should be top priority, this training and skills. So I just want to stand so I can see better. So very, very important, right? So on Youth Day last year, I'm an activist, but I also own a renewable energy company. I'm a solar installer. So on Youth Day last year, I wanted to make a dent into the 64% of 18 to 24s that have no hope of a job. So we launched an initiative called Solar 1000. And it was just an easy, naive ambition of me to train 1,000 people between last year's Youth Day and this year's Youth Day. 1,000 solar installers. We haven't trained one. We haven't trained one. Because the industry will tell you that even though we're looking for people just to carry the solar panel from the ground out of the box to the roof, we can't, because the law says that only qualified electricians and not the three divisions, 1, 2, and 3. The middle one is one wireman, and the next one is a master electrician. Only those people actually can install. So we're trying to change the mentality to say that there must be a sector that can carry the solar panels. I had 300 kilowatts of solar panels delivered yesterday. You can't really get solar panels, but we're ready to get it, and it's been delivered to the site. We're now struggling to get people because we want to be compliant. So there's roadblocks in the way of training and of skills development, but we must push for it, and we must hold the JET IP responsible for a larger portion of training and development. Otherwise, we're going to shut it down. So I'm going to say to you that we haven't flexed our muscles yet as society and civil society. I talked to Crispin, and I said, is this a talk shop? You want to say to yourself that we've done consultation, but have we really done consultation? Because we haven't spoken to Tami properly. We haven't spoken to the guy from AKF Youth properly. So I want to deal with that. But now I want to come back to what can we really do, because to address the issue of the challenge and the fear that you have, we have not made sure that in that JET IP, community-owned renewable energy is there fundamentally to be supported, because we need not to be dictated to by the IDC, by the big funders, by the international community, because to unleash the potential for energy, we must democratize it. Do you know that the bank that funded the creation of the grid 100 years ago, JP Morgan, still funds it today? What we need to do is we must democratize the energy thing, and we decentralize it, and we build your energy facility in your area, with your people, from your community, with your parents. So we respect your culture. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. I'm speaking as an activist, but I'm also speaking as a business owner. The government pays lip service to this idea of the small businesses being the backbone. We can actually do this because we own the spaza shops in the communities. So we can sell the 2 panels, the small inverter. But the JET IP is actually a financial instrument by the big boys and the big companies. We haven't democratized it. That's our challenge. I have one more point to make. So the carbon border adjustment program, ma'am, it's going to be a disaster for South Africa. In 10 years, we will be the pariah of the world. We'll not be able to export our fossil fuel made cars. Now, I'm not talking the fact that they're electrical or not electrical, but they're made in an industry that is fossil fuel driven. They will penalize us at the border when this adjustment program comes in. And we don't have 5 years or 10 years, right? We won't even have it ready in a decade. but we will be penalized in 2024 when the first version of it goes through, and in 2026 we'll not be able to export most of our products that are produced in South Africa because we would have not made any progress to decarbonize. It's a talk shop that's happening here. What we need is civil society, and I don't mean civil society like the representatives of the NGOs and all these groupings here. What we actually need is the millions of ordinary South Africans on the street, right? To either stop this thing in its tracks, right? Or to do it properly. Yes. Can we have a woman? Can we have a woman, right? Sorry, I didn't know. Can they
Thank you. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mavu Mulele. I won't stand up because you already stood up for me. But I wanted to jump. Yeah, I'm from COSATU. You see what the comrade said there in front, Comrade Tamine? As a union representative, this is what we deal with. The fear of the working class losing their jobs. And the problem that we are faced with these things is because I've got an interest in knowing, Ma'am Hori, what happened to the government that we used to have that was for the people. The government that understood what people are going through and putting people before anything else. Because when you are reading these just transition frameworks, when you are going through the JJE, what is this? It is more about the profit of the big bosses, like you said, the big boys. Unlike me, as an ordinary South African. Let's put aside the thing of us being union leaders and all that. As an ordinary South African from the rural areas, I'm from Limpopo originally. Can the person in Limpopo tell you about the climate change crisis or even the just transition? No, they don't know anything. What happens to the person that sits in the rural areas who does not have TV, who doesn't know anything? What are we dealing with right now? You guys are not reaching out to this type of people. You call me as the top leader of the union into the boardroom. We sit there, it's cozy, it's nice. And I agree, I understand the language. But then what about the old lady there? That one there, Gokasi, do they understand? No. And then what have we done now? Are we reaching out to people? Currently I'm staying in Tembisa. When we went to we have been attending this just transitions and the climate change campaigns and workshops, I went to my councillor, he's my neighbor, and I said, Ejida, we need to organize man around Kasi and talk to people about climate change. He was like, I'm a woman, you're wasting time. Then what? And when you walk around, you are seeing all these things that you are being taught to say that these are the things that are contributing towards where we are today. I mean, if what happened in KZN did not change our minds about the crisis, then we are still playing games. So the issue of the skills and development plays a bigger role, a big role, which is something that currently as the government, we don't see in that plan, being put as a priority. But we see that like the other parties, like the other people, which is your private sector, they are the ones that are being given more and more and more. And then what about me as a worker? Do you think when someone comes in my workplace and say, comrade, this is what we want you guys, to adopt, we are not going to adopt, but at the end of the day, you will find that these plans are adopted because you don't go to the ordinary people. You start from here. And the ones that are affected are the ones that are on the ground. And yes, today we are sitting here, and where we are coming from, normally when people are saying that we are consulting, you find that you are consulting on something that already has been signed. Yeah. Tomorrow you go and implement, and you come and say, Mama, they were there. And when my face is appearing somewhere, when I go and tell comrades, no, I was not, you guys were there because the government says we have already consulted. So can we be in a position whereby all these fears, first you need to address fears and understand where we are coming from. We will not just talk because we want to be popular. No, it's not about that. But we want things that are going to work for us so that tomorrow we can also be proud and say we contributed towards that. Not that I'm revealing my age, but if ever in the olden days when we went to school, we were not being taught about the amoebas and the locusts. We were taught about real stuff. I don't think today you can be facing these challenges. But the system said you must learn about Amuba. What is it doing to me now? Nothing. The locust. You knew from 1 up until 8 all the parts of the locust. What is it doing to us? And why are people in other countries teaching their children? A lot. Hey, comrade. Children, if I give my child a laptop now, he doesn't even know what to do with this. He can just delete your things because he delete. That's all that people are learning. So the system, we need to change. And we can't be talking about the first industrial revolution. How long have we been talking about that? Have we implemented that? COVID-19 should have taught us as South Africa that we have never been ready. So today, as the prep, there was this time when I saw, it was COP27, and I was like, what are they talking about? Because as South Africans, we have never even been consulted about things like that, because we know we've got comrades here that will give you guys what is that you want as the community. And today, I think will be it's the first time in my life where we are sitting in a place like this, both labor, communities and business, and we don't fight because we don't see eye to eye. We are about the people, and the other ones are about for profit. So can it change for once? And we work together, and when we're working together, it means that now the government and even the business, they need to contribute as well towards this skill set development, so that our members that we are representing cannot be scared of losing their jobs. They know that there is job security, and we also need to know what skills are there. Like the comrade is saying, there's this red tape. Why should they be there? If the idea is to make sure that everyone is taken through, it can't be a just transition if other people are left out. And go.
Thank you. Just a quick one.
You're jumping in. So
Yeah,
better be very quick, and then
yeah,
you're supposed to take with the red hat, please.
I think before you leave, you made a good point that you talk about skill development. There is no need for skill development. We already have the skills. But what they do is just a red tape. Why do you need any electrician to pick up a solar panel to the roof? All you need, you just want one electrician to be on the roof, but everyone else can pick up those things and have them. So first of all, don't tell South Africans that we've got a skill development problems. Let's go back. I'm an electrical engineer by trade. I've got masters. You can wake me up tomorrow and say, can you develop an invention? I'll do that for you. So what do you now mean? I'm confused when you guys say there's a skill development problem. So maybe what I need now, and I've been saying this, can maybe outside somebody give me 5 skills that you need in the renewable energy space outside. If you can give me 5, I'll give you 1,000 rand, because there's none that you cannot get in the country. So this thing is developed just to delay us. For me, where I see it, just to delay the development and go back and say no. But there are no skills in South Africa. All I need is 5. Maybe somebody will give me outside. Thank you.
Thanks. Gentlemen with the red hat, be very patient.
Should I pass first and then come back?
There was one person after,
because we all sat the back here and our hands have been up for quite some time.
Well, thank you very much, moderator, the colleagues. Both Amanzikazi is the name I go by nowadays. It means rich waters. I think now I'm also a businessman. We try to sell some shoes, Jody, like a franchise. I think the government or the current event of today is currently undertaking the Operation Volunteer. Some people might follow suit. It's called Operation Volunteer. It was the project that aims to modernize, transform special legacy, apartheid legacy systems. We know, guys, we are battling from the apartheid legacy, special plannings and stuff, our roads, our dams, our digital systems. So, yeah, that's the current operation we are currently driving. Yeah, the pedestal is on. So now we wanted to ask the PPC to also consider people first when they decide to become lower and try to build the arcs. We heard we were promised Turkey ships there that were gonna be plugged in the base there to support us the just transition. They're gonna be wake up tomorrow and be a just transition. So, but in that woke up of the day, let's also consider skilled people and not be just a rush for green rush. We know everybody's trying to reach the greener pastures. So also, yeah, also this establishment of the new Ministry of Electricity, we would likely also to like to hear from the minister himself how the ESCOM is gonna be integrated in the communities. You know, like now we are currently telling South Africans to be Mahatma Gandhi, where we find Mahatma Gandhi in winter in Gandhi Square. Thank you very much.
Afternoon.
If I could just, so lunch is starting now. I would like to hear the last few voices. So please do just remain another 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'll be short. Yeah. Actually, I just like to thank or do what I don't know. I'm from Leicester. My name is Jabula from Leicester. Where I'm coming from, there's a company that is called Geoscience. I hope you know it. But I'm so surprised because I don't see anyone here from Geoscience. Where I come from, they are trying to build a plant to capture a carbon capture. So I'm so surprised I see no one here to come and represent themselves or represent our township. They are here because where I come from, there's too much mines, Sasol power station. They are trying to protect the climate by capturing all those carbon. So I'm so surprised I don't see anyone. I don't see our mayor, as my brother said before. There's no one here who comes to represent us. So I hope maybe in future or next time you will try to contact them and have a convoy with them. Thank you.
Okay, watch the microphone move across. We just pass back to.
Thanks very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much. I don't want to be long. My name is Godfrey Talan from Kosatu, Kamala, where God lives. We are seriously targeted by this climate change. They, in principle, told us that we are targeted by the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom that pop out money into our country. So where are we going now? We don't know. So my colleague here has spoken, so I don't want to go more further. We at Nganga, we've got I think about 12 mines. The dust and all other diseases is our daily bread. That dust is moving for 27 hours, 7 days a week. So you sleep, you eat the same dust, you wake up, the water is a mess. So that's the other thing. But here, when I read some in this framework, they are saying this is the building block. So we advise PCC committee that our president, Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, has created the PCC to oversee the activity. The PCC must go to all rural areas. What they have done now to move around the locations only, where there is tar roads, that is a little thing that they have. What they have done during the elections, they must also do with the PCC. This project is a very big project. It cannot be just a lip service, because I talked to somebody in office, because there's a mine next to the community. One in Secunda, there's a mine in Balenche. In Emalashen, there's a mine. In Middleburg, there's a mine. And then Port Elizabeth. And so they think that is enough. That is not enough. The total percentage that they are saying in their IEC report, that's the total percentage that they should work on. The PCC must work
can use tractors or whatever method they can. Ensure that there is a people under, the Limpopo mountain. On top there is a village. What you call it, Pongola. On top of the mountain there is a village. The Kwanyamazan. On top of Kwanyamazan mountain there is a village. But these PCC have never been there. Now they are going to lie here in writing nice books, which they are saying they have covered the whole community. The other thing that I saw is a discriminatory. Outside this framework, there's two gentlemen, which means PC is saying only men who are going to work with electricity. So we are here fighting for gender equality. We must ensure that we are balanced. We must go and remove this flag sheet outside and put else a woman. A women are capable to be electricians.
Yes.
My last word, we demand quality local manufacture. 2, we demand a quality product. We don't want phone call. And we don't want phone call. All the, what do you call it, the aqua, what is called this? Called aqua agriculture. What do you call this? Yes, solar agriculture. We must also come back and re-educate us about the solar agriculture. So it's play part also as part of this transition. We don't have a problem with this, what call it, the just transition. But my question to you is, what is the difference between just transition and just transition? What's the difference? My last word is do it right for the first time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to follow suit and stand. See, everybody's been standing now. Thank you, Madam. I am Rif Dalajan from Fiducia. I just want to pick up on a few points that have been made by previous speakers and absolutely appreciate the sentiments there. So whilst I have many number plates that I carry, I'm going to say I'm also from Limpopo, from the community that my president represents, from Duivelskloof. So I hope that as we engage now, we're not going to let the Duivel los in terms of what we want to do. But my baby brother over there, because somehow or the other we feel like dinosaurs today, because the youth are out and we want to hear your voices. And I hear that you've got your own business, you're running a shoe business. But what attracted me was you said Jordan. Now, I'm a proudly South African ambassador. And my colleagues here from COSATU also are part of what we call the Buy Local Save Jobs campaign. Now, my brothers, and all my baby sisters, you are not here to nationalize international brands like Jordan. If we talk localization, it starts with us. Let's not promote international brands. No. We cannot be shouting at government and others if education starts at home. If we want to support the gentleman that was speaking over there, trying to advance and create jobs for the youth, then the youth must also embrace the fact that we are trying to save jobs for you. You are not ambassadors for Gucci and Calvin Klein and Jordan. You are ambassadors for South Africa. You carry the baton for you and the future. Let's stop that. We can't be helping the Commission if we are pushing a different agenda. Like Minister PG said this morning, even if it's a small anyana fine that you're trying to bribe, it's corruption. It's the principle that we are talking about. So when we plead groot asseblief, because we understand when we push a campaign, it says local is lekker, buy local, save jobs. That's the first thing. The just transition must be just and founded in the principles of justice. So if we push one way and you push a different way, it's not going to help us to get to where we want to be. So that is my plea with all of you today. Let's all build the movement now to meet that moment when those devastating impacts are going to be coming. That's the first point I want to make. Humbly I appeal to all of you. The second point, Madam Facilitator, is that the Minister has declared in the budget, by virtue of now enabling a rebate of up to 15 to 25,000 if you install rooftop solar. Now, I don't know how many of us can afford those panels. So for this financial year, everybody wants to go and get panels. Panels where, from whom? There's somebody that's already marketed himself, not just about being an SMME, a small, medium and micro enterprise, but at the same time saying and pleading with us that he wants to push skills. Madam Facilitator, Madam Commissioner, how do we respond to that cry when the youth are looking to be capacitated, but we are the architects of our own devastation? It cannot be right. When are we going to realize that we shouldn't be pushing an agenda that is for the bourgeoisie? We also have to reach out and meet people halfway if we want to advance on those aspects. The final point I want to make, my dear fellow South Africans, brothers and sisters, if we want to give the Commission the power that they need, we also have to read through the manuals and also educate our own when we go home. Yeah. We can't only rely on the Commission, they've got a lot to do. What we don't understand is that this just transition is going to cost us 1.5 trillion for the first 5 years alone, on top of a loan. And GDP is already, government debt to GDP is already standing at a magnanimous amount.
Yes.
What is that going to mean? Higher interest, higher debt servicing costs. We are going to pay for that. After the 5th year, the total increases. Where do we get the money? Are we going to finance jobs, green jobs, climate jobs, a just transition, or what are we going to be financing? So ultimately, as I conclude, Madam, when we look at skills, and I want to humbly disagree, and we can have a conversation, because engineering skills are needed here. This is the skills that we are missing out. It's going to be needed for that transition to take place. There's a skills mismatch in South Africa, because the soft skills is where the demand is. But there's not, the supply of the critical skills is on the other side that we don't have. We want to enable you at the same time. So I want to use the Hong Kong example. You know, everybody's lambasting China, but take a look at how China turned themselves around from desperation to now being the leading, soon, superpower of the world. They invested in research and innovation, research and technology. What are we investing in? When are we also going to say to the business community, we don't always agree with them, but there are times that we have to hold hands with them if we want to make this work. We have taken a resolution, and you heard me saying this morning, upskilling, reskilling, meeting the requirements for the jobs of the future. When is the business constituency also going to realize that by investing in all of us, we are capable of doing this? So please, everybody, you know, there's a lot more to the discussion and the debate, and I want to plead, let's not have a skills strike now by business and government. We need investments in these elements, but let's not mislead us. And I agree, this is a consultation. That doesn't mean we've consulted with everybody extensively. It is going to take a lot more and a lot more honesty so that we are then able to convince our constituencies that this is what the future entails. Nothing for us without us. Thank you.
do. We have.
Taking that.
Okay, are we happy to have 3 more people?
When taking that side there.
Okay. So this gentleman is head up for actually 2 more people. So I'm very sorry, but I had promised you earlier, and we've got one more lady's voice. But just while the microphone's moving across,
Bring the microphone.
I think what I'm hearing is that there is a need for greater, and I don't even know if it's consultation, but dialogue. I think what worries me with consultation is that it's listening and noting as opposed to having a conversation. Because we need to be listening to understand. We need to understand as the Commission what is being said. And we need to ensure that we empower the communities, we empower the people with the knowledge that we have on the plans that are in place. It is a sharing of knowledge. And I really do think that more dialogues than consultation is actually necessary. But one voice over there, and then we have our last lady to speak.
Good afternoon to the house. My name is Ndogozo. I've got a good smile. I see everybody smiling. I'm the Deputy Chairperson of South African Youth Council in Mpumalanga. We have joined today the Presidential Commission to air our views, to say the just transition is not just in Mpumalanga. For example, we've got a town, Mener, we've got a town there in Mpumalanga that is becoming a ghost town because of just transition.
Sure.
And those people are unemployed. Close to 3,500, the town is closed, just like that. Klipspruit, Anglo-American, you came and demolished. You came and demolished, just like that. So we are just saying the just transition is not just. Let be a consultation. And you must engage the private sector to say, stop, we are causing us an unemployment. The private sector is not conscious, taking decisions based on the business and the profit, while people are suffering. One CEO can decide that tomorrow we are closing a mine, just like that, you are not profiting. But in the export, temperatures where every day our thermal coal is going outside. And Germany is coming to South Africa and USA with 8.5 billion and telling us that you must go green. Why they are not going green? Why don't you tell the investors to go green? So that we can go as stakeholders and benchmark in their countries to see this solar panel is working, their power stations are working, their industries are working without any problem. We've got a lot of manufacturing companies. The labor can tell you that are closing. You see, when you are running, I've got a water show. At 9, I'm thinking I'm facing a load shedding. And I'm losing customers. At the end of the month, I must pay the municipality. And the municipality does not enter when there was a load shedding, power cuts, or what. So I'm just asking the Commission to be considerate. And another thing, there is a thing of localization. You can't localize without involving the municipalities. The President introduced district development model, which says the governmental structures must work hand in glove to solve the problem. From infrastructure, unemployment, skills development, enterprise supply development. So if the Commission can't consult it to the district development model, then we are working in silos like they are saying. Then there's nothing to be achieved. Because the municipality is busy with electricity and other services, they are busy with it, we are here. After that, you are going to other stakeholders, like we are attending a Malacan local economic development forum. We tell them that we are here today. I don't even see one of their representatives. So you must be conscious that while Anglo-American is closing their mines because just in transition, they want to build more solar panels, our people are being unemployed. And as young people, we are seated at 69%, close to 70%.
Sure.
Yeah? Sure. And that means you are, all of us we are unemployed. So, in terms of skills, we are saying, there was a submission by he left, by our brother there to say, there's a problem in skills. We attended the Savia conference here in Melrose Park. They were speaking about the solar can't be installed by people who are not trained. But there is no training by the sitters. And there was no sitter who said, we are here, we can do something.
I'm here.
Whose sitter are you?
I'm energy and water seeker.
But you just started there. I'm a director of GC Solar. I'm the director of GC Solar. We're trying to make something from you, and you brought somebody to our meeting at GC Solar. Then they dismiss us and say they don't have a problem. I'm not speaking. The government does not have a problem. But why then the presidential climate is proceeding to lobby people to go green? Why we don't take into cognizance the economic results?
Sure.
Yes. We are dying in South Africa. We are from COVID-19. They lied to us. They ate the money. Now they pay with just transition. And on top of that just transition, you've got fourth industrial revolution where you must teach your people. So all those things as young people are clouding us. Sure. We do not know what to do. Sure. When you go to this side, you are thinking this. But there is nowhere where you are saying, we'll build a factory in Mpumalanga where we have 11 power stations and close to 60 mines that can bring an energy mix. As a society revolution, we are lobbying our DG to go energy mix. To say if we are bringing the solar is good, but don't close our minds. We want to test the system, if it can take off our business, if it can take off our running economy. We are running a good economy. That's why USA and Anglo cannot get a lot of us and they are angry. And I'm lobbying people to join BRICS. As BRICS, we are building a new bank that must fund SMMEs. we are tired of outsourcing everything. They will bring a company from USA, Australia, or Germany to say they will incubate us. Who told you want incubation? Who told you want incubation? We can do these things ourselves. We are capable as young people of South Africa. And you, who said is the ambassador? You are an ambassador also for us because you represent us when you are sitting with the president. Tell the president that you are capable. We can do this. We don't need Germany. They must take their 8.5 billion and go back home and go green there. Here, we've got well-educated young people, environmentalists, who are going to take this thing forward and smoothly transit and not cause any economic harm to our people. At the end of the day, we will say there's a dead COVID, what, just to push the justification. Thank you very much.
Okay, the final word for the afternoon. My name is Nopumelelo from Orange Farm. I just want to ask you guys to just put in a point that most of the time we are here, most of the time we engage with you, but you don't listen. You don't listen to communities. You are just there, but you don't take. We may not be educated like you, but there is something that we can put in and you can use it so that this country can go forward. And secondly, when you come to my place, when you come to Orange Farm, don't come and tell me what to do. Ask me, because I know. I know Orange Farm, and I can tell you which side is which. Then come to me, listen, teach me, listen to me, then implement. People in Orange Farm, they don't even know what is climate change, let alone the jet IP. If you come to them, you tell them this, they will just open your eyes and say, what are you talking about? You don't even come to Orange Farm. And please, when you invite people, so this time, don't invite Salga. Just invite each and every councillor, ward councillor, so that they can come and listen, because we are not even sure if maybe Salga can give them feedback or what. Because our councillors, at least I have more information than my councillor, my ward councillor. They don't even know what is a jet IP. So all those things, please just consider it. And there is, Mr. Morgan talk about red tape. Yes, there is red tapes. He talks about that you can't put solar if you're not an electrician and so on whatsoever. So if you have qualifications, the companies don't hire you because they say, no, you have qualification, you are expensive. We rather teach our people what to do so that we can limit the money, so that we know how to pay. I do have a son who's a solar installer, but he's sitting at home. He doesn't know where to go because wherever he goes, there is a red tape on it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think that was a very good way to close, because I think it sums up where we are, that we need to do more in inclusion, in skills, and just ensure that we do listen to the voices of the communities. So thank you, everybody, for your time, and thank you for your voices. Sorry for those that didn't get to speak, and please go and have lunch. Thanks.